Welcome to Book Nibbles. Big ideas, small bites. The Four Agreements, a practical guide to personal freedom, is a deceptively small book, one that can be read in a single sitting, yet it carries within it an entire philosophy of liberation. Don Miguel Ruiz, drawing from the wisdom of his Toltec heritage, presents a way of looking at life that challenges many of the assumptions we inherit from our families, our societies, and the cultures that shape us. At its heart, the book is about undoing agreements we never consciously made, beliefs and rules instilled in us since childhood, and replacing them with new, conscious agreements that free us from unnecessary suffering. While the book is practical in nature, it often reads like a spiritual parable, blending simple instructions with profound insight into human behavior. Ruiz speaks not from a position of abstract theory, but from the lived reality of someone who has seen how damaging the unexamined mind can be and how liberating it is to step outside of its traps. The story begins with a description of what Ruiz calls the domestication of humans. Just as animals are trained from a young age to behave in accordance with the rules of their trainers, human beings are conditioned from childhood to follow the laws and customs of their families and societies. When a child is born, they're like a blank slate, free, curious, spontaneous, and expressive. They cry when they are hungry, laugh when they are delighted, and shout when they are angry. They express what they feel without censorship. But little by little, parents, teachers, religious authorities, and other figures of authority begin to shape the child's behavior, rewarding them when they do what is considered good and punishing them when they do what is considered bad. In this process, the child learns to suppress aspects of themselves in order to gain approval and avoid punishment. Over time, they adopt the belief systems of their environment, internalizing rules about what is right, wrong, acceptable, and unacceptable. Ruiz calls these internalized beliefs agreements. We agree to them, often unconsciously, and they become the framework through which we view ourselves and the world. The consequence of this domestication is that we begin to live not as our authentic selves, but as actors performing roles to gain acceptance. We wear masks, hide our true feelings, and judge ourselves harshly when we fall short of the standards imposed upon us. Inside our minds, Ruiz explains, exists what he calls the judge. This internal voice evaluates every action we take, comparing it against the rulebook of agreements we have absorbed. Alongside the judge exists another internal character, the victim. The victim is that part of us that feels unworthy, guilty, and ashamed whenever the judge condemns us. Between the judge and the victim, our inner world often becomes a battlefield, one where self-criticism and self-punishment dominate. Much of the suffering humans endure comes not from external events, but from the relentless judgments and condemnations within our own minds. Ruiz insists that these agreements are not destiny. They can be broken and replaced. Just as we once accepted agreements that led to self-limitation and suffering, we can now choose new agreements that lead to freedom, joy, and love. The book offers 4 such agreements. While they may appear simple at first glance, their consistent practice can transform a person's life by dismantling the old structures of fear and judgment and replacing them with clarity and freedom. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Ruiz describes the word as the most powerful tool humans possess. With language, we create, express, and shape reality. Words can heal or harm, liberate or enslave. When we speak carelessly or maliciously, we plant seeds of poison in the minds of others and in our own. For instance, a parent who tells a child they are stupid implants a belief that may scar the child for life. Similarly, when we gossip, spread lies, or use words to manipulate, we perpetuate cycles of negativity. Being impeccable with one's word means speaking with integrity, saying only what you truly mean, and avoiding words that harm others or yourself. It means using language in the service of truth and love rather than distortion and hate. Ruiz illustrates this with a striking example. Imagine someone casting a spell with words. If you tell someone, "You look ugly today," that statement can act like a curse, lodging in their mind and affecting how they perceive themselves. On the other hand, Words can also act as blessings. Saying to someone, "You are beautiful, and I appreciate your presence in my life," uplifts and heals. The words we speak to others matter, but just as importantly, the words we speak to ourselves matter even more. Many of us carry on a constant inner dialogue filled with self-criticism, doubt, and fear. To be impeccable with your word is to stop abusing yourself with negative self-talk and instead affirm your own worth and potential. Ruiz acknowledges that this agreement is challenging because society conditions us to use words recklessly, but by becoming conscious of the power of language, we can gradually shift toward impeccability. The second agreement is to not take anything personally. Ruiz explains that nothing others do is truly because of you. It is a reflection of their own reality, their own dreams, and their own agreements. When someone insults you, it is not about you, but about their own fears, frustrations, or worldview. If you internalize their words and take them personally, you are agreeing to carry their poison within you. For example, if someone calls you incompetent, the statement only affects you if you accept it as true. If you refuse to take it personally, the insult has no power. Ruiz compares this to wearing a shield. The opinions and actions of others bounce off without penetrating. This agreement frees us from needless suffering because much of our pain comes from taking on the judgments of others as if they were our own. To illustrate, Ruiz tells a story of someone walking into a room and insulting everyone present. Each person reacts differently, depending on their own insecurities and beliefs. One person may feel devastated because the insult confirms their inner doubts. Another may laugh it off, knowing the insult says more about the speaker than about them. The difference lies not in the insult itself, but in the agreements each person carries about themselves. When you stop taking things personally, you break the cycle of internalizing external negativity. Likewise, even praise should not be taken personally. If someone tells you that you are wonderful, that too is a reflection of their perspective, not an absolute truth about you. By not taking either insults or compliments personally, you remain free from the ups and downs of others' opinions and can act from a place of inner stability. The third agreement is to not make assumptions. Ruiz points out that humans are constantly making assumptions about what others think, feel, or intend. We fill in gaps of information with stories created by our own minds. Often, these assumptions lead to misunderstandings, conflict, and unnecessary suffering. For instance, if a friend does not return your call, you might assume they are upset with you, when in reality, they may simply be busy. Or if a partner seems quiet, you may assume they are angry, when in fact they are simply tired. Instead of clarifying through communication, we often cling to our assumptions, which then fuel resentment or insecurity. Ruiz urges us to have the courage to ask questions and to communicate clearly rather than relying on assumptions. If you do not understand something, ask. If you want something, request it. If you're unsure of someone's feelings, seek clarity. This practice reduces conflict and increases intimacy because it replaces guesswork with truth. Ruiz also highlights that many of our assumptions are rooted in the need to feel right, to believe that our interpretation of events is accurate. By relinquishing assumptions, we open ourselves to curiosity and understanding. This agreement, though simple, can profoundly change relationships by eliminating the false narratives that so often divide people. The fourth agreement is to always do your best. Ruiz emphasizes that this agreement prevents self-judgment, regret, and guilt. Your best will vary from moment to moment. On days when you're healthy and energetic, your best may be higher than on days when you're tired or sick. The key is to accept this variability and to consistently give what you can in each moment without overextending or underperforming. By doing your best, you avoid the trap of self-condemnation because you know you gave what you could. Likewise, you avoid the trap of laziness, which often leads to self-reproach later. Ruiz stresses that doing your best is not about perfection, but about presence and effort. It is about living fully engaged in whatever task or situation you are in. An example he gives is the practice of meditation or any spiritual discipline. If you push yourself too hard, demanding perfection, you will burn out. If you're too lax, you will not progress. But if you consistently do your best, over time you will improve and deepen your practice. This principle applies to all areas of life: work, relationships, creativity, and self-care. When you do your best, you also free yourself from regret. You cannot go back and change the past, but you can know that in each moment you gave what you had. That awareness brings peace. Together, these four agreements form a code of conduct that can radically transform a person's life. Being impeccable with your word helps you create a reality rooted in truth and love. Not taking things personally frees you from the control of others' opinions. Not making assumptions reduces misunderstandings and increases clarity. Always doing your best ensures steady growth and shields you from self-criticism. Ruiz describes these agreements as tools to break the old agreements that enslave us and to create new ones that liberate us. He acknowledges, however, that adopting these agreements is not easy. The old agreements are deeply ingrained, and the judge and victim within us are persistent. It is a lifelong practice, requiring awareness, patience, and persistence. Ruiz likens the process to training a wild animal. At first, the mind resists, clinging to old habits of fear and judgment. But with practice, the mind can be retrained to operate with greater freedom. He also emphasizes the importance of forgiveness, both of oneself and of others. Many of us carry resentment from the past, blaming parents, partners, or society for our wounds. Yet holding on to resentment only perpetuates suffering. Forgiveness is the act of releasing the past and reclaiming our freedom. It does not mean condoning harmful behavior, but rather refusing to let it control us any longer. The Four Agreements is not merely about personal happiness, but about creating a better world. When individuals stop spreading poison through careless words, stop taking offense at every action, stop creating false stories through assumptions, and instead consistently do their best, they contribute to a culture of respect, compassion, and authenticity. The ripple effect of one person living by these agreements can inspire others to do the same, gradually shifting the collective consciousness toward greater harmony. In the end, Ruiz invites readers to see life as a dream. We are all dreamers, creating a shared dream called reality. The agreements we choose shape that dream. If we choose fear-based agreements, the dream becomes a nightmare. If we choose love-based agreements, the dream becomes a paradise. The Four Agreements are a pathway to shifting from the nightmare of domestication to the paradise of freedom. They're deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful tools for transformation. When we reflect on the book as a whole, what makes it enduringly influential is not only the clarity of its teachings, but also their practicality. Many spiritual or self-help works remain abstract, filled with lofty ideals but little application. Ruiz distills wisdom into four practices that can be applied immediately in daily conversations, conflicts, and decisions. The agreements are simple enough for anyone to understand, yet deep enough to sustain a lifetime of practice. Their impact lies in their cumulative effect. The more you live by them, the more freedom you experience. For example, someone who struggles with self-esteem may find immediate relief in the first agreement. By becoming impeccable with their word, they stop repeating harmful mantras like, "I am worthless," or "I will never succeed." By replacing those with affirmations of worth and potential, they shift the narrative of their lives. Someone who is constantly offended by others' words may find liberation in the second agreement, realizing that they do not need to absorb every criticism hurled their way. A person trapped in cycles of conflict with their partner may find the third agreement transformative, learning to ask questions rather than assume motives. And someone who lives with constant regret may find peace in the fourth agreement, knowing that their best was enough. It is also worth noting that Ruiz's writing style contributes to the book's power. He speaks with the authority of ancient wisdom, yet uses plain, accessible language. He does not burden the reader with complex philosophy, but instead offers parables, metaphors, and concrete examples that resonate with everyday life. The metaphor of domestication, the inner judge and victim, the idea of words as spells. These are not just explanations, but images that stick in the mind and guide practice long after the book is finished. The Four Agreements ultimately offers a radical yet gentle invitation to reclaim the freedom we had as children before domestication took hold, to shed the layers of conditioning that keep us bound, and to live with authenticity, clarity, and love. Its simplicity is its genius. By practicing these four principles, we begin to unlearn fear and relearn love, creating not only personal freedom, but a collective dream of harmony. And while the book acknowledges that perfection is not possible, no one can keep the agreements flawlessly at all times. It reminds us that the goal is not perfection, but progress, not judgment, but awareness. Each time we fall short, we simply begin again, doing our best in that moment. Over time, the agreements become less of an effort and more of a way of being, guiding us toward a life of freedom and joy. And that's it. The Four Agreements, a practical guide to personal freedom by Miguel Ruiz. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.